Erroneous Zones I wrote in 18 days.
In 18 days? Wow.
18 days.
Now,
and there's 22 million of those in print today.
Now, it didn't take off right away. You had to take
It
some
didn't
action.
take off at all, no. It's, they had one printing, and they expected it to do very little. And
they met their expectations.
yeah, they were. They told me they had what they call a list mentality. They said, this is the list. You're on the March list. And it's a clever little title, and it's a nice little book. And if we sell the books that are on our list, they had a first printing of 3,500, then we'll be happy, and you'll make a little money, and we'll make a little, and then we'll move on to the next list in April, and so on. And that was the mentality. And that's a big part of the mentality in publishing today, as you know. So I just said, well, what will happen if the first printing sells out? Just if. I know it won't. I mean, that's what you're saying. It won't. But just if. His name was Lou. All right? And Lou said, wait. He said, you're an unknown. He said, it's 3,500 books on hardcover at $7, $6.95. I mean, that was like an outrageous price to put on the book at that time. I said, but just if. And he said, well, if they do, we'll have to put a second printing. I said, okay, fine. And so I became, they wouldn't let me buy them. I tried to buy them, they wouldn't let me. So I became a bookstore. I was in New York at the time, and all you have to do to become a bookstore is just give them a number in Albany, and you're a bookstore. So I became a bookstore by just giving them a tax number. And through that tax number, which I gave them the address of the bookstore that my garage was to become, in Long Island, it's true. And I called that day and I ordered 3,350 copies of Your Erroneous Zones, and they were shipped to the garage.
So you sold it out.
I sold it, and I went back to Lou 2 days later. I said, Lou, what will happen if we do sell it? He said, Wayne, you've got to stop bothering me. It's like you're another one of these beginning authors. I said, well, just check the computer, just see how it's doing, because I said, I've been doing a lot of speaking, and I think, and he went to his computer, it's a true story, I could even tell you his last name, Gullickson, and he went to the computer, he said, oh my God, this book is doing fantastic, we've sold out the whole first printing. So they ordered a second printing, 1,500, they didn't want to take too much of it.
Oh no.
Yeah. I bought all those up too. I bought the second printing, and by that time, they didn't have any money for distribution, they didn't have any advertising money, they didn't have any of that, because they just didn't do that in those days. So I said, I'm going on the road, and I quit my job as a professor at St. John's. I walked in, and I had all these publication credits, and I was like a rising star there, and they said, you're insane, you've got guaranteed tenure for the rest of your life, you've got a position, yeah, right. Yeah, you can argue for your misery for the rest of your life, and I resigned, and everybody thought I was nuts except my wife and I. We both knew that this was the right thing. The day I resigned from doing something that I no longer was totally involved in. I was good at it, but I didn't want to do it. It was like drill. I mean, after you've drilled enough, it's just enough. Drill is drill, okay? But you don't need to keep doing it. I learned that in the military. So I drove home on the Long Island Expressway that day, the freest man I'd ever felt. I knew I was about to follow my bliss. I really knew it. And I didn't have any guarantee of any income or anything. The interesting thing about that is that in the following year and a half, I made more money. I was 36 years old now at that time. I made more money without even trying. I never thought for a minute that I would make money because I hadn't made any money on anything I'd written yet. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't writing. Yeah, I wasn't writing for money. I was writing because writing was just something that's how I expressed myself. That's just who I am. And I made more money in the next 18 months than I had made in the previous 35 years of my life, like by a factor of 10. And
you were just going out and sharing your philosophy with radio stations?
I took the books in a station wagon across the country, and I would. This is the way I did it. If you want to know how I did it, I would arrive in a town like Columbus, Ohio, where they have Good Morning Columbus on the radio, and if you've got a new avocado dip, you're on for an hour. I mean, they're looking for people. Okay, every station's got a talk show, so you just have to find out who they were. And I had a girl back in New York named Donna Gould who was working for the publisher, but was willing to work for nothing at night. Just because she loved Erroneous Zones and loved me and loved the whole thing. I mean, she was just involved in the whole process. She really loved it. And so she would call these different stations and all that and book me on Good Morning Columbus and Good Afternoon Columbus and Hello Columbus and Goodbye Columbus and and all of this kind of thing. And and I would have my car full of books. I would arrive in Columbus. I was sleeping in the car. I mean, I did this. I had no money to do this with, right? And I would sneak showers. I would figure out how to take free showers, in days ins and things, But
you had a committed wife. Yeah. Now, was your wife traveling with you?
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes. She was also working.
Wow.
And I would go to the bookstores. And first I would telephone them call them up, and I'd say, have you got a book called Your Erroneous Zones? And I would do it in like 9 different dialects. You've had erroneous, erroneous, and I'd do it in German, and I'd do it in Dutch, and then my wife was with me, she would call, and I'd get these people to call and ask for erroneous. It's true, this is exactly what we did. Shameless.
Demand.
Shameless.
I love it.
But I knew I was going to create the demand. I mean, I didn't think I was doing anything immoral. I was just creating the demand for what it was that I believed in. Yeah. And besides, I had 5,000 books I had to get rid of because I had no distribution at all. So
you were what we call committed.
That's right. I was totally involved in the process, and then I would go on the air. Okay. Yes. And I would do what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I never tried to sell my books. I never gave the title out. I never said, oh, by the way, my new book is called, and oh yes, my book is this, and you've seen this on the air. And every time somebody does that, you say, well, they're not involved in it. They're just trying to sell me something, and you move away. I didn't do that. I was just selling myself as a person. I was just talking like we're talking. And when people talk and are committed and are involved and are authentic and are enthusiastic about what they're saying,
people respond.
People want to know more.
Yeah.
They just want to know more. It's why I let everybody tape all my talks. I never deny anybody to tape to this day. Yeah. In fact, I not only allow it, I insist on it. I don't take a cent for it. Anytime I speak, I say, if I'm on purpose, rather than an outcome. If I'm on purpose and in the process, then my purpose is to get the message out. That's where I've got to be centrally focused. Not on what's going to come back to me, not on royalties, just on that. So I allow every church, every organization, you can tape me, and you can do anything you want with the tapes. Anything you want. You want to sell them to your customers and all of that, just don't put them into bookstores and make a legal conflict for me with publishers. Just legal problems. But otherwise, do anything you want with them. Because I figure all that can happen is something good. What can happen somebody hears an interview of mine, other than they say, gee, I want to hear more of that guy, and off they go to the bookstore, or off they do, they call for the tapes and all. Nothing but good can happen, and then you keep circulating it and so on. So I mean, I learned that about 3 years ago when my agent kept saying that you can't tape Wayne Dyer. Now I have a clause in there that says, I insist that you tape me, and do whatever you want with the tape.
That's true.
So I was like on that process. Then I would finish at the interview, and I would go to the same bookstore, and I'd say, by the way, I'm here in Columbus. The Little Professor bookstore, this was one of them I can remember very well. And I said, I just did AM Columbus, and I'm going to do this afternoon's Columbus, and I'm going to do all of this. And the guy said, my God, we've already had 10 phone calls. Well, hell, I knew I'd made them. And I said, well, can I just leave 25 of my books here, and if they don't sell, then you can send them back to me, and here's the address, and it won't cost you anything. Just send them back to you. Sure, he said, absolutely. We've already had calls for them. And sure enough, they were getting calls. People were going in there.
Sure.
And that's how I distributed my book. I did that in Columbus. I did that in Baltimore. I did that in Jacksonville. I did it in Tampa. I went to almost every, I shouldn't say every state, but I went to about 75% of the states in the country at my own expense, in my own little car, 6 months on the road. And then finally, the book hit the bestseller list.